Thank you guys all for coming. Honestly, I'm so excited today because two of my favorite artists in the world are here with me. Kelly Einbinder, my family and I have collected her work over the years, and we have had really interesting conversations related to art. And I think that's the connection that Kelly and I have has been through the language of art, which for me is one of the most important languages. If we can connect on that level, then we're going to get each other. And so that's why I am so excited. Honestly, I'm over the moon. I can barely even do this interview today because I have these two artists here. And then Joey Vaiasuso, who's been a close friend of my partner Rob for many years. And I saw his artwork and I can't believe how incredible it is, how much energy there is in this artwork. And so recently we visited his studio in Little Italy, a gorgeous, very large, very typical artist studio. It looks like something you would see in New York. Wide space, tall ceilings, the doors that roll up.
On the
tracks. You can see the train going like feet away from where he's creating. It's a phenomenal space. And you see these gigantic, we couldn't fit those gigantic canvases in here. This is what we could fit. His pieces are just phenomenal in scale and in energy. And so I know also that Joey builds his own canvases, and there were several of these large blank canvases laying there of all sizes. And so sometimes when I'm guiding art, or even when I'm making art myself, one of the things that I think about when I see canvas, a blank canvas or a blank piece of paper, or wherever I'm about to create art, I think about the infinite possibilities that there are to put down on this thing, infinite. And so much so that every now and again, if I haven't been painting often, I am startled in a way by the infinite freedom that there is to produce. And then I think about what that is as far as the mirror to life, and about how every day we have that infinite choice to do anything that we want to with the day or with our life. And so my question to you, Joey, so that we understand a little bit about you and your process, is when you have these canvases there, how do you attack these monstrous, beautiful canvases? What happens first, for instance? Are there thoughts? Or do you just start and it directs you? Tell us.
Yeah, I just start and it directs me.
That's lovely.
Yeah, I respond to, each color, stroke, whatever the texture that goes on. But it's definitely, yes.
Yeah, and that's what I often, when I'm guiding friends in art, a lot of times they're like, what do I even paint, And there isn't much to think about in that as what you're telling us. When we just start, the thing tells us what to do next. And that's what Joe and I had this conversation recently about how we are all artists. And if we just settle down for a minute and do that practice of putting down something and the thing telling us what to do next, we don't have to think. It tells us. So tell us a little bit more about, for instance, so we have the beautiful sculpture in the front room of Joey that is that very complex, looks like, it has stairs, but even the other pieces to the sculpture are a bit of a puzzle piece, I imagine. I'm not exactly sure. But how does that sculpture mirror, because to me, and I should have maybe discussed this further with you, but to me, that sculpture mirrors a lot of the energy and of the structure and of the puzzle pieces that we see in these paintings here. Am I correct in that assessment?
Yeah, definitely. I started off doing sculpture, and just sculpture definitely carried over into the paintings. And I feel the paintings are very sculptural.
Yeah.
The structure and the stacking, and
Yeah. I think also one day when we were in your studio, you mentioned something about what some of these things may represent to you. Something that you mentioned about like a storefront or something that we're looking at. I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
a lot of them are, I'm inspired by like one of the titles I think of the piece was called Window Shopping. So like when you're walking through like the mall and you see these big installations in the windows of, bags and purses. I'm very inspired by that. And to me, you're kind of like looking at, an installation of a bag and shoes and whatever it may be.
Yeah. Amazing. Now I'm going to turn to our other artist, Kelly. And so we've had many discussions about art before. And, I hesitated to ask Kelly what her paintings are really to her, because I had such a fantasy in my own head about them being dreamlike states and, the subconscious playing through in a very intuitive way, straight from the heart onto these small canvases, these small papers, jam-packed with story and emotion and feelings. And when I mentioned that to her the other day when we did have a interview about the artwork, she was happy that I mentioned the dreamlike states. Would you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I grew up drawing, and I've never painted, but I wanted it to look good. I was very, I wanted to seem skilled. And then when I was 18, I got into lucid dreaming, and I had this idea that I wanted to visit an art gallery in a lucid dream, and then I could see what my paintings would look like, because I knew they'd come, from my dreams in my head. And so after a year, I finally had the dream, and it changed my life. It was the longest. It took the most energy I feel like I put into to stay lucid. And I didn't know what to do at first. I went skiing, I flipped upside, and then I was like, wait, you're supposed to go to an art gallery. And then I'm walking down an alley, and then all of a sudden an art gallery pops up. And I walk in, and there's 3 different rooms, and the one on the left is kind of cartoonish, and then there's the one on the right. And I was very drawn to that gallery, and it was pretty dark. The feeling, there was a melancholic or darkness to it, and it was sort of ethereal and just thick oil paint, and it was these figures, and so I saw one painting, and I walked up to it, and I was just something about this painting. And then there's this guy next to me, and we look at each other and look back at the painting, and then I look at him, and he's like, that's you in the painting, right? And I was like, and he said, that's you standing still amongst the chaos. And I thought it sounds a little cheesier than it did in the dream, but it was just a figure in a doorway. And so when I woke up, I was like, I have to paint this. And so I started trying to paint this figure, and it just didn't feel right. And I And then I just had this feeling like, I just want to vomit. Like, I just want to like explode on these paintings. I don't want need it to like look good. I can never reproduce what this thing was in my dream. And I like, for the first time, like gave myself permission to just like vomit on the canvas, just like throw shit. I didn't care if it was ugly. I just like wanted the emotion to get onto the canvas. And so that started my painting journey when I was like 19. And so for a few years, I like obsessively painted. And then, you know, life changed a bit. Many years went by. I got very sick. And then I lost like my ability to paint and play. I'm a pianist too. Improvisational. Everything is improvisational. And so yeah, I stopped making art and music, and then started doing like brain retraining stuff, and then that got me to start playing music slowly again and painting. And at first it was like after like 10 minutes my brain was like nah. And then after like 9 months of just like really disciplining myself and practicing, I could, you know, improvise on the piano for like an hour, and then I was painting for hours at a time. And my life is honestly very small outside of my paintings, and my paintings used to be big actually. So why they're small now is because I'm like very chemically sensitive, and I got sick from toxic mold, and so I wouldn't even like touch paints for a while. I'd like leave them outside for a while and then like, you know, touch them, but I can't paint indoors. And so it kind of gradually progressed from just doing little things outside, and then I found this park with this big bench, and then it just started kind of developing. I get more and more like supplies until now I have like 4 huge bags that I lagged to the park, and I have this set. Now I like got it down. I can set up in like 10 minutes, and I've been painting at this park at the same spot for like 7 years now. And outside of that, like that's pretty much all I have the energy to do. I don't have a lot of functional hours during the day. I know I look healthy and seem healthy, but I don't feel good. And you know, I just that became the focal point of my life and my day, and it just evolved. And when I first got back into it, and it was just like so therapeutic, and so like I had never felt like, it was just so obvious like that art mirrors life, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is like it was a love-hate thing too. Like my art it's never easy, never. I get to the park and I'm like, like, what am I getting? Especially like a blank canvas. I'm like, I don't know what to do. It's overwhelming, and I get stuck. And then I'm like, just put something down, you know. And so, yeah, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. But yeah, it's been interesting, and it's like with the piano, I have this relationship that's kind of like the honeymoon phase of a relationship that never ends. I'm just like, I want to play it. I love it. I'm in a flow state. This is like, you know, I'm like in a flow state. It's amazing. I'm like, whoa, oh my God, this is how I am in life. And this, oh wow, like this makes sense. A pink line here, there, it's finished. And then I'm like, oh my God, I fucking hate this. I suck. Like, this is so frustrating. And then I throw it away for like 6 months. One of like the things and that I do with my paintings, I get to a point where like I kind of hate it, and then I just like put it aside. I'm like, this sucks, it's done. And I usually work on like 5-6 pieces at a time on this bench, and I usually stand on top of the bench. I think people think I'm kind of like I don't know what. I listen to music. I'm wearing like pink gloves. I'm at a bench, like standing up and dancing. But so I always have like usually 6 paintings or so I work on at a time so that I don't get stuck on one, so that I can stay in like a flow state. But yeah, I'll like put it away, think it sucks, and then, 2, 4, 6 months later, I'll take it out and like, this just needs like a pink dot. It's finished. Like, or I can do something radical to it because it doesn't matter anymore. It's already ruined. So like, let me just like, put a big elephant there.
Yeah.
And so that's, it's kind of my process.
I love that. And so it's interesting that every artist interview that has been done here, the current that has strung every single one of it together is how art is so important for life. I mean, I'm not going to say just for our mental health, but for living. And, it can be in the form of dance. It can be in the form of poetry. It can be listening to music as an art form, I feel.
I think so.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And making art as an artist, as a painter, is equally as important. It's all of those paths that lead us back to ourselves. Could you tell us a little bit about how important art, I know you've mentioned it in the story already, but if you could make emphasis as to how important art has been to your life, or, to life.
I'm getting emotional. Again, I have a complicated relationship with it because, there'd be a lot of days where I feel like really sick, and I'd get to the park and I'd just be crying in my car and just be like, get to the bench, get to the fucking bench. Yeah. And there's this line where it's like, okay, you're being perfectionist. You're like, this is like way too hard. Like, you can rest, Kelly. Like, you don't need to be this like inspirational disabled person. Like, calm down. Like, we associate so much of our worth with productivity, and I don't want to play into that. But it is in me deeply. But like, it saved my life. I mean, if I wasn't out making art, I was in bed.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
Sometimes I take walks, but pretty much it's like I'm doing other things now, which is nice. And I've, been reconnecting with my family more, which is, I'm putting more priority in that than going to the park, which right now has so many bees that I can't go there, which is like really weird. And for the past 2 months, I have not been able to make art because I get swarmed by bees. So it's very strange, but it's been a lifesaver for the past 7 years. I also wanted to say real quick, just how I met Joey. I went to, actually in the show here, I went to a show, so I thought it was just like a music show, and I get to this rad gallery. I'm like, what is this? And I saw Joey's art, and I was like, I just grabbed the first person. I was like, who's the artist? I need to meet him. Take me to him, please. Like, so amazing. And so, I was really excited that Joey wanted to do a show with me. I love your art so much. And we talked for a while that night and just talked about our art process. And
that's amazing. I'm so happy about it. Yeah, I'm super happy about it. I'd like to open it up to a little bit of question and answer. If somebody here has a question for one of the artists, let us know. What? Yes?
Well, actually, you could talk about what you like about each other's work.
That's a great question.
Oh.
I love the stories in Kelly's work. You could tell there's a lot of emotion and story, and you could feel your work. And I really like that
too.
A lot. and I like your colors. I love the scale too of these pieces.
Yeah.
I like the small pieces like that.
Scale, color, and just there's a architectural, like, you know, some people are like, oh, anybody can make abstract art. I'm like, no. There's like, it just feels right, you know. There's like this, like, it feels, it's like such an intuitive sense of like, oh yeah, like that pink there, that like block of color here, it's a feeling, and I really liked the feeling of it. And the big pieces too, it's something I kind of dream that I can do again someday somehow. I don't know where I could do that outside, but
we're gonna collab on a big piece. Yeah, Dark. We already talked about it.
That's great. So, Rob?
Another question. So, we both mentioned the agony of like the getting started, like really difficult. And I think that has a metaphor, like in people who don't do painting, and, you know, you have these things that you defer because like, how do I even get started with that big pile of papers on us, or that backyard, or whatever it is, right? But at some point, there's an impetus. There's like a motivation that actually leads to action. I mean, can you put your finger on it? Like, is there a mantra that you have, or is it just something where you just have to? Like, I don't even want to give you the answer, but how do you start from nothing?
It's pink. You could always just paint over it. That's the thing. I mean, I literally just start throwing. I mean, to me, this is plain. And I'm so grateful for that, but I'm playing Illustrator for that. And it needs to be playful, and I don't ever want it to feel forced. Like you said, it feels like natural. There's times where I catch myself all of a sudden like refining it, and like, no, now it looks like I'm trying too hard. And I don't like that. I hate that. And I got to back up, and it's just paint.
That's the little
moron. I mean,
sure.
Mantra is just
saying. Exactly. And when I guide people also, I'm like, listen, this isn't a commissioned piece for the city that's made out of marble. I mean, we're playing with paper, and sometimes I give people not even paint so that they don't have the ideas of, oh no, paint and art and all of those things that we associate with skill, and that some people can do it, but maybe I don't want to do it or can't do it. And that's exactly the language that I want to hear about. It is just paint, and we're playing, and art is about playing. It's dancing is about playing. All of those arts are also about playing and getting back to our original selves. Like a babies for the soul.
Feeding our soul. It's not the perfect brush stroke, it's not the,
Yeah.
It's emotion, it's playing, and that's the most important.
Yeah.
I feel a little differently with my
Yeah.
Where it became sort of like, it's really hard for me, or it became very hard for me to do anything but this. It's like I disciplined the shit out of myself to get up and go to the park to do this. But like, is my house clean? Have I showered in the week? Have I made the doctor's appointment? No. Everything felt really hard, and it was like almost like a survival coping mechanism, but also playful, like there has to be that element. And it's, there's this aspect of like, my whole life I felt like I need to contain my bigness of emotion and how much I feel, and in my paintings I can be as big as I want. There's guns, there's it's like there's paradox, there's grief, and like violence and beauty, and like everything can exist in there, and I don't have to make myself small.
Just great. It's just beautiful. 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 Let's take that to life. That we don't have to make ourselves small in life either. That our story and our line that is not perfect is ours. And that we don't have to change it for anything. That is what makes us special and unique.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions? Super fun. Yes.
So I'm wondering how, first, is art your livelihood?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Yay.
Right. So then I've been doing art for, my life, and then it's been my way of feeding myself for a number of years. But then that gets to a point where I'm like, it becomes not playful because I'm like, okay, if I don't do this, I'm not gonna eat, type of thing. Where do you find the balance in the creation and play versus like, oh, I really gotta do this, and then it just becomes more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I relate to that, honestly. I feel like over the years, honestly, just kind of stuff with my life, it's become harder, honestly. But other things in my life have come up, like I play chess with my dad 3 times a week, and that's like one of the biggest things I look forward to.
Yeah.
Art feels kind of more like work for me, and there's some part of me that's like, oh, I'm disabled, I don't have a job, I need to do something to be, and still, even though I'm like so against that kind of in our society, it's so internalized that it's really hard. And I've been like very active my whole life before I got sick, so it's hard for me to just like be in bed. I'm fucking bored. I don't want to, I want to be doing things. So I think I'll get back to a point in art where I think it just kind of comes and goes, you know? And I don't want to judge myself about it either. And I haven't been making as much art lately, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. Partly because I feel like I need to get it out of me, and partly because I feel guilty that I'm not producing. So it's, I think it's a personal journey. Yeah.
Oh. Well,
one of my things is like, I paint every day. So I have like a ton of paintings, and Instagram has been an amazing tool. Like, I've sold a lot of work over Instagram, and I think just keeping up with it and keeping your hands moving every day and just creating every day. And I'm lucky that I have other skills. Like, I make sculpture, I do woodworking, and I have a lot of other things that I do as well that kind of could fill in some of those spots. And you have to take a lot of breaks. Sometimes you can't force creativity. Sometimes you just gotta, when you get to that stress point, you just gotta like walk away from it for a little bit and come back freshly inspired and keep going. Yeah.
I just want to say how amazing the colors are in both your paintings. Like, the colors are so vibrant, and the way you use contrast is like astonishing. Like, I'm curious how you do that. Like, it talks to me. And how do you create your palette? Like, look at these colors. They're so amazing. What do you do? What magic is there? And how do you bring I think like the white and the dark, they kind of like, this is how they dance, and they become even more brighter than.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
For my work, it's a lot of adding and subtracting. Like, there's a lot of, you stand back and that needs a little pink on that side, that needs a little purple, and bringing that relationship with the colors together and until we're happy. But I like the contrasts, yeah. So,
for me, colors, It's funny. I remember when I was little, I remember walking down the stairs and saying, I'm dreaming of colors. And my brothers and sisters would say, no, you don't. And I said, yes, I'm dreaming of colors. And I don't really remember the dream right now, but I think I must have been dreaming colors. But there's like just a very intuitive feeling of like, oh, like orange needs to go right there. And then a feeling, it's just like a very intuitive, like, it is a little bit of OCD, like the OCD gift, you know, where you're like, that needs to be there or there, and that doesn't feel right unless it's there. And I'm like, I guess this is my kind of my OCD palette. Yeah.
Plus, we all grew up with cartoons and candy. It's like
that's exactly right. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you all. We're not done. You with this. Say there's music, there's food.